Four-star quarterback Malik Washington could save Maryland football.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. I'm also doing work at InsideBlackandGold.net, so make sure you guys head over to InsideBlackandGold.net for all your latest Terps news. Four-star Maryland commit Malik Washington is absolutely needed to save Maryland football. I don't know if you guys realize this, but the future is in the hands of that kid, Malik Washington. And sure, there's a lot of different things that make up a football team. There's a lot of different things that has to go right. But at the end of the day, you need a good quarterback. And I think this year, under Mike Locksley, we saw the first year in a while where we didn't have Talia, and we had inconsistent quarterback play, which we haven't been used to. Sure, Talia hasn't been like a Joe Burrow, like 2019 Joe Burrow or something like that, but Talia was pretty consistent quarterback play. We know what we were going to get, and we were going to get pretty high-level play. And this year was the first year under Coach Locksley in a while where it felt like we just didn't know what we were going to get week in and week out from our quarterback play. Were we going to get a Billy Edwards 350-yard game where he goes 28 of 33 and 3 touchdowns and throws 100 to Ty Felton, 80 to Caden Prather, or something like that? Or are we going to get a game where he goes 12 of 30 for 100 yards and 2 interceptions? We didn't know what we were going to get this year from the quarterback position. And at the end of the day, I've talked about our football team has so many different problems. And I'm going to talk about how this roster kind of feels depleted right now. And I'm kind of scared of the future. But I know there's one guy that has a chance to put it all together, and I think he can do it. It's four-star quarterback Malik Washington. This kid is talented. And he's going to be the most talented player Mike Locksley has worked with at the quarterback position. He's more talented than Talia. He's more talented than Billy Edwards. This is a guy that I think has a chance to come out and when it's all said and done, to be one of the best Maryland quarterbacks of all time, as well as being one of the best quarterbacks in his class. And you guys all know Malik Washington and who he is and what kind of talent he is at the position. But he was the biggest riser on 247 in terms of their quarterback, in terms of their players, in terms of jumping ranking. Like he went from being like a middle, like around the 250th, and then he jumped to a top 50 ranked player nationally, ranked as number 5 ranked quarterback in the class and 2 in the state of Maryland. And of course, attended Archbishop Spalding, where he won, what was it, 3 straight MIA championships over there, which is pretty big time from Malik Washington. An absolutely special player with special tools to do a lot of different things and an elite level athlete. And I'm thinking Maryland football needs some saving right now. I don't know if people recognize it yet because it's technically only one bad year. But when you're a program like Maryland, one bad year can easily turn into 2, can turn into 3, can turn into 4. And now you're in a place you just don't want to be. And I'm telling you, if he doesn't pan out, if he doesn't go to the player, doesn't develop into the player that we think he can be, and Mike Locksley and Maryland football fails Malik Washington, our program will be dead. It'll be dead, and we'll probably have to start over. I'm telling you now, because if Malik Washington isn't good, isn't the player that we think he can be, and if we can't get him there, if we can't put the right things around him, if we can't put the right scheme around him, the right OC for Malik Washington, then Maryland football will die. It'll die. The Coach Locksley era, Mike Locksley era will be dead. We'll have to start over again. just when we start to do some special things, when we start to get some special recruits, we just committed 5-star, the number 2 ranked player in the entire class in Zion Ely. We just got a special commitment from him, which is absolutely big time. And then as well as we're getting guys in this 2025 class like Malik Washington, like Jalen Gilchrist, like Zymeir Smith. We're getting special types of recruits. All that stuff will be dead, and we'll have to start over. Mike Locksley, and we'll be out, and we'll have to do it all again. I promise you, if Malik Washington doesn't work out, I'm not saying he won't work out, but if he doesn't end up being the player we think he can be, then it's just we're not going to be good the next couple of years, the next 2-3 years. We're not going to be good. Mike Locksley will be fired probably in 2 years, and we'll have to start this whole thing over, and it'll have to be a completely different era. And you're not going to get the top level recruits after the first year. Like, you're going to have to start it over. Whereas Malik Washington could save this program and take it to a new level is if he can come in the next couple of years and put together high-level quarterback play, get Maryland football back to, I'm not saying we're going to win the national championship, but get us back to 9-win, 8-win type of team, and then people are going to be looking at us a lot different. We might start banging out consistently top 25 recruiting classes. We might get plenty of 4-stars that are in the DMV. And a lot of it's going to come down to if Malik Washington can play at a high level. Now, there's so much more to go into it, but at the end of the day, at a very simplistic, a very simple level, if Malik Washington can bring this program up, if he can be the quarterback that I think he can end up being with the type of traits, with the type of arm talent, with the athleticism. Like, I saw this kid play basketball in person in high school, and he's the best athlete on the basketball court. And that's not an easy thing to do. And usually when you see a football kid, it's like if they play another sport, whether they're a receiver, whether a tight end, whether a DB, usually they're one of the top athletes on the court or whatever sport they're playing. But we forget Malik Washington's a quarterback. That's not always the case with the quarterback. And he was still the best athlete, jumped the highest, rebound the ball at a really high level just because of his athleticism, was able to do special things, was throwing down dunks, really cool level athlete. But I just think that when we look at his talent, his athleticism, and everything to come together and what he has the potential to be, he can save this program. And I know it might not seem like it needs a ton of saving right now. It might not seem like everything's in the dumps yet, but I'm telling you now, there are things that we have to get better at, that we have to improve, and that if this Malik Washington, this era, the next 2 years doesn't work out, people are going to get fired. A lot of people are going to be in the portal, and we're going to have to start all over again and try and rebuild this thing under someone else. Whereas if he works out, there might be another quarterback down the road in whatever class that would be. What is he, a 2025 and 2028 class? He'll be a quarterback that is a high-level guy out of the DMV that wants to come to Maryland. And now you're getting consistent quarterbacks, as Mike Locksley's proven he can develop them the right way. And I'm not even sure what the deal is with him playing next year. I know Billy Edwards, I guess, is coming back. We're still not 100%, but Mike Locksley did say something about that. But I think that Malik's going to play next year. Might not be the first 2 games, but I think he'll get in there pretty quickly. I just think that he's the keys to this program, and he's going to be the savior. And it's Mike Locksley's job to go out there right now, and I'm going to talk about this later a little bit, get guys in the portal, offensive linemen, get in the portal, whatever else you need to have a successful team. I think that's the number one thing. A lot of good quarterbacks can still play well with poor receiver play, even if their offensive line is a high level group. A lot of quarterbacks, a high level quarterback can do that. They can elevate the receiver play. They can't elevate the offensive line play. And we've seen it with quarterbacks that don't have amazing receivers, but they're still able to play right now at a pretty high level because they have a pretty good offensive line. It's just how it works. You don't always need a receiver to win one-on-one matchups every time. Like a lot of teams are running a lot of zone type of concepts. You need guys that they don't have to be the most talented receiver ever to be able to get open against a zone and feel the hot spots and the cold spots of a zone, as well as if your passing concepts are good enough, you can get open. But Maryland's been good at developing receivers, so I'm not worried about that. So I'm just saying that your number one priority should be getting an offensive line together, recruiting offensive line at a high level to put around Malik Washington, because that's going to be the biggest indicator if he ends up being good. And if he can stay healthy, talk about just him being good. We need him to stay healthy. And if we don't have a good offensive line, he's not going to be able to save this program. But I honestly think Malik Washington is the savior of this program. I think it makes sense in my head. I hope it makes sense to you guys. I hope you guys see this direction. If he doesn't work out, I'm telling you, I think the Mike Locksley era is going to be over, and we're going to have to start over with somebody else. If he does, we could reach new heights of this program that we haven't seen, and we can recruit like we haven't seen yet. And I think it could be really cool overall. Maryland's football roster right now is about as bad as I've seen it look in a while. I'll talk about that after this. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sports app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-plays, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. There's so many different things you can bet on FanDuel right now. Whether you want to bet on the college football playoffs, you can do that, or the different bowl games that are coming up. Or if you want to bet on the NFL this weekend on Sunday, you can do that on FanDuel too. There's so many different things. College basketball, of course, is starting to get really big time as well in the NBA Cup, and all those different things. There's a couple games today, so make sure you guys go over to FanDuel.com. I don't know who's going to say this, but this Maryland roster looks bad right now, like bad. I can't even sugarcoat it. There is not a whole lot going for this Maryland football roster right now. The roster is depleted. I think we weren't very good last year, and we lost nearly every single one of our top contributors. It's not like we had a bunch of sophomores or juniors and freshmen contributing at a high level. The guys that were playing well, that were playing good, that were our best players, were guys that are gone now. And when you go position group through position group, it's kind of scary how this team looks. There's not a ton of returning production. I think this roster looks a lot worse than it did before last year. I thought there were holes, but not like this. And obviously, it's the beginning of the offseason, so you got plenty of time to get in the portal, to get guys. And we also have our best freshman class under Mike Locksley. But still, those guys can't be expected to come in and make that much of an impact. Besides maybe Malik. Outside of that, it's not, maybe one or two of them will make a big impact. But other than that, it's not like a bunch of guys that are going to come in and play at a really high level right away. Like, they need a year or two to get right. I just think when I'm looking at Maryland's roster, it looks bleak. It looks bleak. When you think about the strength of our team last year, people are going to ask, what was the strength of our team last year? I would go right to the receiver position because of two guys, Felton and Prather. Those guys made our passing attack scary at times, made it hard to match up with us. I thought just provided a lot of different matchup problems and high-level play at the receiver position. Both of those guys are gone to the NFL. So receiver goes from suddenly being a strength to me looking at the receiver room right now and saying, Yeah, there's some talent, but this receiving core is not something I would get really excited about right now. It's not like it's a bunch of guys that have clearly shown that they're going to be high level players. Like Caden Prather and Ty Felton were two of our top three receivers last year. We don't have that this year. Octavian Smith has shown flashes. Shalik Knotts has shown flashes. Ryan Manning shown maybe a touch, but it's not like we have a bunch of guys returning at the receiver position that I trust that are high level guys. And then we go down to what the offensive line. Yeah, we get some of these guys back that we got in the portal last year, but none of them were good last year. So it's like hopefully they get better, but Maryland for sure will have to get in the portal, get some offensive line because we had the worst offensive line unit last year. So how much better can they really get? So receiver, offensive line don't look good. Quarterback Billy Edwards didn't look great towards the end of last year. MJ Morris is almost surely going to enter the transfer portal. And then Malik Washington, I think that's why I talked on the last segment. He might have to be our savior. Running back, Roman Hemby could be back. Nolan Ray looked good at times, but it's not like something to go crazy about in that running back room. I like the room. I think it's solid, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter if your offensive line can't block. And then you hope your tight ends, Preston Howard and Dylan Wade, can make a step up. And then you go over to the defensive side of the ball, and this is where it gets really scary too. There's just not a whole lot of returning talent. And the strength of our defense last year, I couldn't even exactly tell you. I'd probably say the linebacker room, but we lose Ruben Hippolyte, which was a big part of that. And then we lose our two best guys on the inside of our defensive line, and Jordan Phillips and Tommy King-Basote, both to the NFL, which definitely hurts us a lot. We lose Donnell Brown, which doesn't help. And then the corner room, nearly every single starter is gone. Jalen Husky hasn't entered his name in transfer portal yet. He's really the only returning guy in the secondary. Perry Fisher, transfer portal. Dante Trader, who was one of our best players, NFL. Glendon Miller, NFL. And so you just look at this roster overall. Leonel Whitaker, transfer portal at the corner spot. Kevin Thomas, portal. It's scary right now for Maryland football. I just think there's not who do I say, like, you can't just have a bunch of decent, like, okay guys. We're playing the Big Ten. Like, who is a guy that could potentially be like a really good player in the Big Ten? Because you need some of those to be able to win games. And even this year, we had some real, like, Ty Felton was one of the best receivers in the country this year. I thought that some of the guys on our defense, like Glendon and Dante, were still really high level Big Ten type of guys. Ruben Hippolyte. Who right now do we look at this team and say, yeah, he's a really good Big Ten player? I don't see anybody. And that's scary. And our roster looks depleted. Our secondary looks depleted. We lose one of our best linebackers. We lose our two best interior defensive guys. We lose our two best receivers. We're losing a lot. And I just think this roster doesn't look good right now. I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how Coach Locksley is going to attack the portal. I don't know the type of guys we're going to be able to get. I just don't like how this roster looks right now. I don't think it's good. I just think it has a really long way to go. We'll see how it ends up being, but I just think this roster is scary right now. Derik Queens is in a two-man race for Big Ten Freshman of the Year. Can he pull it out? Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite, and right now you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steaks experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift. with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites, from legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more. Save 50% off site-wide for limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com. That's OMAHA steaks.com, and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. I think Derik Queen is in a two-man race for Big Ten Freshman of the Year. I think it's going to go back and forth. I want to say Derik Queen's going to win it, but I think I have to switch up. It's going to be really hard for him to win this award. And there's a couple different reasons why. It's not necessarily because I think this kid is that much better than Derik Queen. I just think the way he plays on his team allows him to win an award like this. This Dylan Harper kid at Rutgers, man, I have to give respect where respect is due. That kid is talented. That kid's a top draft pick in the NBA draft, like a top 2 draft pick in the NBA draft, I think. I think that he's a guy you could literally put in the NBA right now, and he probably average 20 points and 10 assists, or not 10 assists, 5 assists and 5 rebounds right now. He's just so talented at what he can do at 6'6". He has an advantage over Derik Queen in terms of how his team's structured to be able to win the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. I think he is a little bit better than Queen. I don't think he's necessarily that much better than Queen, though. I just think that he's in a better spot, which I honestly think when you look at it, it's really for a Maryland basketball team in the whole, it's actually better for us. I just think Dylan Harper, and what I mean by that is I think Dylan Harper has to take on so much of the load offensively. When I watched Rutgers play last night against Penn State in a pretty good game, Harper, he takes a ton of shots. It's almost like watching the NBA. Like when you watch the Mavericks play, it's like Luka, Kyrie pick and roll. It feels like, or ISO every single time down the court. That's what it kind of feels like with Dylan Harper. It kind of feels like every single play, it's Dylan Harper down the court and pick and roll with him and the Rutgers big man, which allows him to be able to play at a high level. And I think Maryland's just so much more deep. It's a better team and a more balanced team that we're not going to ask Derik Queen to be able to do that. And right now, Dylan Harper's not just probably the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. He's probably the Big Ten Player of the Year. So you just lose to a special talent. But I think Derik Queen has an argument to be made for first team All Big Ten. That's the thing. He could be first team or second team All Big Ten and not win Freshman of the Year. I think that's entirely possible. But when I look at Dylan Harper's points per game, he's averaging 23.4 points per game. That's number 1 in the Big Ten compared to Derik Queen's 17.5. He's also rebounding the ball pretty well. He's passing the ball at a pretty high level. He's just doing too many different things at a high level. I just think it's hard for Derik Queen to be able to match up. But I do think, here's the thing. I think Maryland's basketball team, I think our team is much better. I think our team is miles ahead of Rutgers. I think Rutgers came into the year ranked 25th, and I knew that it wasn't going to be like that because this isn't what wins in college basketball. Having the best freshman doesn't necessarily win, or having a freshman put up 25 a game, that doesn't win. That doesn't win in the tournament. That doesn't win in the Big Ten. That's not going to win for them. And they haven't had a best year. They've taken some bad losses, and despite Dylan Harper going off, I just think that what wins is consistent team play and having 5 guys that are all really good players. And I think we're a lot better than Rutgers. And I think the reason Dylan Harper, a big reason he's going to probably win that award, is because he's the offense. Whereas we have 5 guys out there, including Derik Queen, that can anybody go get you 20. And Rutgers is 2. And they're both those 2 freshmen, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. So I do think that Dylan Harper is going to end up winning this award, and I have to switch up. But I think Derik Queen could easily be a second team Big Ten. I think first team will be hard, but I think he easily be second team All Big Ten. And if you looked at KenPom, he's top 10 in National Player of the Year award in terms of players. But Dylan Harper was like higher than that. So I think Derik Queen is more than good enough to win this award. I just think he's going against Dylan Harper, who's just a special talent, a difference maker, and a really cool player for Rutgers basketball. And I enjoy watching him play, and he's got game. And I think him and Ace Bailey are going back and forth to be that number 2 pick in the draft. But I think Dylan Harper even has number 1 pick in the draft type talent. But that's kind of how I see it going right now. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Peace.